Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of our Picture This podcast series here on Whiskey Throttle Media. I'm your host, Brent Bowser. We're here today with Brandon Hartranft. What's going on, Brandon? How are you, man?
I'm good. How you doing?
Hey, man, can't complain. Hey, we appreciate you taking the time to do this with us today. We'll talk about some of the most memorable moments over your career, but before we get there, what have you been up to? I'm sure we all, as we all know, you had that, devastating injury, but how has that been going with healing? And I know you have a new, project you've been working on. So
Mhm.
how has life been, recovering and trying to move forward?
Since November 22, November 29th, 2022, it's been a freaking roller coaster. Obviously had multiple injuries, and we were in California when I got hurt in Fresno testing with my team, and obviously the bike locked up on the face of the jump, and I couldn't do anything, and just landed on my head and back, and I had multiple injuries. So spent about a month in the hospital just trying to get recovered from a back surgery. Then we were in California for about a month and I wasn't getting the care I needed. And the best option we had was to move back to my hometown in Jersey. So obviously I lived in California for years and we had to move out, which was pretty devastating. And move back home, had some multiple more surgeries, just trying to put my body back together. And it was gnarly. It was really tough mentally more than anything. Just like, I just got married right before I got hurt. Pretty much signed my new deal and had a new trainer, Brock Tickle. Everything was just like, I was ready for 2023. Like I was confident we were gonna have a good year, and everything just went spiraling down in a blink of an eye. And yeah, I dealt with some mental stuff. I had to go to speech therapy. I had to go to counseling. I had to just do a lot of things, I never imagined I would ever do in my life. And yeah, it was tough, but I mean, I've learned quite a bit from this past year about my body and life, and it's almost like some blessings. I got to spend so much time with my family that I haven't done since I was like 11. I've learned about real world instead of dirt bikes every day, and it's like a blessing, but it's not, because these injuries are going to hurt me for the rest of my life. But so we finally got spent home about 9 to 10 months, just therapy and just putting the pieces back together. And we ended up buying a house in Florida, Wesley Chapel. I'm loving it here. It's very beautiful, and it's very hot. I can tell you that. The bugs are ridiculous.
I bet.
But bought a house and moved me and my wife here. And then I'm starting this business with Cooper Webb, Alpha Motocross Dynamics. I'm super, super excited for that. And just, I'm trying to keep myself busy and every day trying to make myself better and better by the day. And it's weird now. Like now I don't have, when I trained and raced, there's always a motive to the end. Like you're always building for something. Now it's like, I don't know. Now I wake up, it's like, oh, what do I do? So
Mhm.
I'm super excited because I have a lot of knowledge, and obviously so does Cooper, to start this business, and I want to help people get better. So I have, like I said, plenty of knowledge to turn you into a professional athlete, and yeah, I'm pumped.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, obviously, you wish you could probably still be racing, but with getting, a new business with training and still being involved in the sport, right? It'll give you that purpose, like you mentioned, where you wake up and you're like, man, what are we going to do today? So it'll be cool that you're still involved in sport. You can help athletes coming up or even current athletes with things that you've learned over the years. Obviously, Cooper is you trained with a lot of different guys and what he's learned over the years. So I think it's cool that you're jumping in this. It'll give you something to look forward to each day and try to, improve that like you used to try to improve, yourself racing. So that's cool. So when does all that kick off and how can people get a hold of you?
So the last few months we've just been like Christina Denny and her husband have been building a website for us. Obviously, this is going to be an online program. We provide riding techniques, diet, nutrition, mental strategies, and pretty much every tip you need to be a athlete, or just from one to be a professional racer to just having fun. We provide everything you need. And Cooper and I came up with this idea just to give back to the fans and riders who can't afford. That's the other thing, is
Mhm.
training facilities and coaches. Everything's so freaking expensive, and it's not even at like facilities. There's like MTF where it's in Georgia. Like people can't do that, like commute to that. So we're trying to just give back to everybody that can afford train, like everything that we're gonna provide. And we grew up riding local tracks, and on the weekends, like me and Coop did not go to training facilities. Like my parents, we couldn't afford it at the time, but so we want to just give everybody the best chance to succeed and make it affordable for everybody.
Cool, man. Well, that's that'll be exciting, and looking forward to see what that brings for you in the future. So we'll jump into the pictures I picked. You've had some interesting moments of your career, and like I'll share on this first one is I remember your rookie season, um, when you came and turned pro. Looking back, looking at Loretta's, you had the class that you came up with was really like Sexton and Cantrell and Mosman and lots of
Faulkner.
fast Faulkner had lots of fast guys. And then, like we talked about before we hit record, 2017 you had some injuries. You turned pro in 2018, and all I remember is seeing this guy on a blue 114, Brandon Hartranft, and no one know how to say
Yeah,
your last name. I'm like, who is this?
Hartranft.
Yeah, Hartranft, right? We figured it out finally, but I'm like, who is this guy? Because dude, you were ripping starts, and I mean, your second race, you got a ninth, and then you went like 9.86. Like you were in the mix like right away in
Yeah,
Supercross, and no one really even knew like who you were and
it's
where you came from.
funny you say that because I'm not gonna lie, like I wouldn't say I was shocked how I was doing, but it was like coming natural, right into the pro ranks, which normally it's kind of the opposite of that. And yeah, right off the bat, I just started doing, honestly, I'd say for a rookie pretty well. And we were not a factory team, so like
Mm-hmm.
it was all clicking. But back in last year at Loretta's was I actually had a title, or I got a title in 2015 at Loretta's, and then 2016 I raced the A class.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, didn't really do that good. What did I say? I didn't do that good. Didn't do that as what I wanted to get. And I remember the 250 Moto 3. I was sitting for like a fifth overall, and my bike blew up going to the line. So I didn't race that. And then signed with Ed Torrance, which it's the factory Yamaha amateur team. And I started me and Justin Cooper, we were teammates, and beginning of 2017 we started winning like every title and for the amateur or the spring nationals. And after that, there's like a radar, me and him especially. And I figured going into Loretta's, it was going to be like a battle for title. And I think I was at Englishtown, and like April or so, I just went to a turn back and slid out, and my knee popped, and I tore my ACL. So that whole year, um, just I literally last race was like Cal Classic. I won a title there, and then did not race all the way until my first pro race, which was Supercross. Not even outdoor Supercross. So that's like a whole different thing than outdoors. So got lucky because Christina obviously caught her eye with me, and she kind of took a risk, to be honest. Like she didn't even really know who I was and my results, and she obviously saw I was winning, and she signed me right before I got hurt for a pro deal, which obviously super thankful for that. And then I just spent all summer kind of healing up, and then we had to plan to go to California. I stayed with my professional teammate Bradley Taff. We were teammates at the time, going into 18, and we had this little townhouse we just rented out. And I had my trainers at the time. It was Swanepoel and Seth Rarick, and they helped us tremendously. And we obviously didn't have the resources at Star and everything, but we made it work. And then going into 2018, I had no clue how I was going to do. Did not know what Supercross was really like racing. And after the first round, um, I was pretty solid. So that
Mm-hmm.
kind of started my career. And I actually remember in free practice, like I could hit whoops because I'm a bigger, strong dude. And all off season, I'm like crushing whoops, have not crashed once. Go into free practice, and I haven't spent whoops. Like when they build a fresh set of whoops at the race, they're very V'd out. So
Mm-hmm.
you cannot drop the front. Otherwise you're gonna go ass over. And do track walk. I'm like, oh, these are fine. I like second lap, I go into him and I literally just eat shit and pop my ribs out. And I'm like, can't breathe. And I'm like, what am I doing here? And then um finished the whole night, dude. I got like eighth that night. And
Mhm.
then they actually docked me because there was a first turn pile up and I
Oh
got
yeah, I
blown
remember.
straight off. But all in all, the day was so freaking good. It was like it was I just wasn't expecting it to go that well. So yeah, I mean, um, this photo right here is from Minneapolis. I think I went like it was a bummer because the first moto I crashed. It was a triple crown. First moto I went like 16.54, and at the time we were like, I don't know, 5 rounds in, and I was just trying to get a top five, and I probably would have got like fourth overall if I didn't ruin the first moto. But this night was a very good night.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned where you got docked. I remember that race, and I think that's like where we saw you up front, and I'm like, "Who is this guy?" Because that was when Marty went down, and there's that huge pile
Oh, it
up.
was
I think
bad.
it
Marty
was
got like
his neck,
decapitated,
dude. It was bad. I remember
bro.
that, and I think you had nowhere to go, so you were like trying to find your way back on the track, and then you came out fourth. I don't remember, but I remember I was like, "Who is this guy?" And I would
Yeah.
my question for you is, growing up as an amateur, you guys aren't racing and riding a lot of Supercross, and then to come out really after a year off and start doing good in Supercross, did it just come easy for you, or was it tougher than it looked, or like how was the transition to racing Supercross compared to your normal moto?
Well, like so nowadays which I think it's better. They're making it. They're letting more amateurs and like they're letting 65s ride and doing this futures race. Like to me, that's safer. It's making people learn. And dude, I remember racing Monster Cup. Like I was terrible at Monster Cup, and um, I don't know. Like after 16, when I got onto the new team with Ed, I like elevated so much better with confidence and everything. And then for sure, like we don't spend time at like say 5 years ago riding Supercross as amateur. So
Mhm.
I remember the first round had a Dragon's back, and I didn't hit a single Dragon's back in my life through the off season. And dude, I could not like I went to bed like, dude, I'm hitting a Dragon's back tomorrow. Oh my god. And I remember when I went out, I literally just skimmed it perfect. And I'm like, dude, what are you freaking out for? But
Yeah.
yeah, it's tougher. Like I said, I wasn't the best amateur and not a lot of spotlight on me. So I didn't get them opportunities like some of these guys did. And um, yeah, it was a little nerve wracking, I can't lie.
Yeah, no, it's cool. And so you had obviously a good 2018. I think when I was looking back, one really good result you had is, in the showdown in Vegas, you got ninth when they brought both coasts together. So like stat class, and you're on a.
Yeah, I remember that night.
Mhm.
That was a great night actually. Yeah.
Yeah, and you're not on a factory team. Cycle Trader, obviously you had good bikes, but different than like you said, the Star and all that. So it was, you had to been really stoked with that. And then you go into 2019, then you get 2020, you get picked up by really your first factory team, TLD, KTM, and you get your first podium and Supercross. Your first podium was actually at
St. Louis.
St. Louis, and then the next weekend you get another one, right?
Yeah.
So you went back to back.
A2, yeah.
A2, yeah. So you get a podium Supercross, and
Mhm.
then you do it outdoors, which you really hadn't ridden outdoors because you're really on a Supercross only type of team.
Yep.
So talk about your first podium, in St. Louis. What was that feeling, knowing that? I mean, you had been around the top five and all that, but like to actually get on the podium your first year on a factory team, like
Factory team.
how was that?
The that night was I'll never forget that feeling. But I remember leading up to this race. I we they so Tyler Keefe and KTM, they flew me out to like we just finished Ironman of outdoors in like beginning of September, and they wanted me back out there in California. Like I was living in Charlotte at the time, so they wanted me in California September 15th. So like reality, I had not much time to like where like just relax and kind of get away from dirt bikes. So they had me riding from September all the way to Anaheim one. And at first, I was going like super fast on the bike, and then when December hit, I started kind of declining because I was getting burnt out.
Mhm.
And with Cycle Trader, we had during the week we had like some days where we couldn't ride because of, like I said, we didn't have many parts and stuff, and just stuff would break a lot easier than factory teams. So I didn't ride as much as I did on a factory team because the bikes really don't break. And
Yeah.
if the bike broke, they could literally swap it in 2 seconds. So I got burnt out from just like every week he was like 4 days of riding. And I kept telling the team, like, dude, I'm kind of burning out. And they just, at times teams think we're making excuses. And I'm like, dude, I haven't rode like this in my life. So we raced A1, and I got seventh, came from like last. And to be honest, I rode like terrible. And it was reality a solid night. And that after that race, it was like Tuesday, and I went up to the team and I started like breaking down. I was like just distraught and just tired, and like I released all this energy out that I needed to. They kind of backed off of me. And then literally the next weekend I got on the podium. So it was just like, what the fuck happened? Like I was so mind blown I got on the podium. And also like a life goal was to be on the podium. So that feeling, I will never forget that race. And then next weekend,
Hmm.
track was freaking gnarly and sketchy. Whoops were massive, and battled Justin Cooper like the whole race. And um it was a very good night as well. And I got a third, and I was just like, dude, what is going on? And everybody's like, why are you shocked? I'm like, I don't know, like I can't help it. But and after that, like I just rode so much better. And then obviously COVID happened, which was a bummer. And we raced in Salt Lake, which Salt Lake dirt's not the best, and it's altitude, and I'm a bigger dude, so it was a little bit tougher. And then this round of pro motocross was round 3 at Ironman. First round was at Loretta's, got 10th overall. Second round, I was riding awesome in the mud. First moto, bike blew up. Second moto, I think I was in fourth, and bike blew up again. So I like DNF. And then I was riding so freaking well during the week. I'm like, Tyler, like, dude, what? Like, I said, dude, I'm riding so good. Like, I want to put this to use. Like, we're obviously doing terrible. And he's obviously, it's gonna have to come on. Like, I'm gonna have to do it, make myself do well. And that day, dude, qualifying, everything was just like clicking perfect. And the track was so freaking gnarly and deep with ruts. And dude, I excelled so well that day. And that was also another race, like I'll never forget like that race. Me and Jet battled both motos, and I beat him. So that was, I could say I'm a few racers that actually beat Jet straight up.
Hey, I know
but
not many people can say that either.
he was also a rookie. It was my third year, but that race was, no gifts were given. Like I worked hard for that, and yeah, I was freaking awesome.
Yeah, and touching on the Supercross podium, I remember watching those interviews, and you're almost at like a loss for words. I remember,
Yeah,
you're getting interviewed, and you're just like, I don't know, because like it was funny, and you could tell obviously you were stoked, but you were just almost at a loss for words, and because you just
honestly, I really was. Like I was just like, dude, I remember growing up. Like I'm telling you, if you told me like 4 years or 2 to 3 years ago, like I'd be in this position, like it was just, like I said, I wasn't the best amateur rider, and it was it was one of my life goals was to be on the podium. And for me to make it happen, it was like, holy shit, I did it.
yeah, and also to back it up on in outdoors too, because one thing, yeah, obviously Supercross is a specialty, but to go outdoors,
Outdoors was way harder.
it's I'm
Oh,
saying it's
dude,
gnarly, dude. 30 plus
got
two,
both
and
coasts, and
mhm.
them boys, like being on a factory team, you automatically, there's a target on you. And especially when you start doing good, you're just dog fighting in every race. And yeah, that race I worked hard for it. And I mean, it worked out. So
Yeah, that's what's so leading into our the next picture. You had a really good year. Two podiums at Supercross, podium outdoors, and but also just a bunch of other good results throughout the year. And then in 2021, you go to the 450 class. You sign with HEP Twisted Suzuki. But we talked about before we record. My question was, you'd only been in the 250 class for 3 years, and the
yeah, not long.
not long at all. And obviously you were just getting to that point. Your third year, you got a couple podiums. You're trending in the right
It could have
direction,
been
and
2021 could have been a title contender, honestly, for the lights class.
Yeah, and so what was the deciding factor of, why you went 450? Were there no options on 250? And if not, that's pretty surprising given the results you had.
Yeah, it was tough because I had some teams wanting me, but they were obviously, not factory teams, and they were solid teams. But at the time, I was just like, got podiums, and I was so fast. I was just like, dude, I don't want nothing less than what I am right now and on what I'm on right now. And
Mhm.
obviously, COVID hit, and I honestly thought I was going to go back to TLD, but COVID hit, and then Husky was had to knock down one rider. They had to shift Mosman to my team. So everything just like, dude, spiraled in the wrong way for me. And because Mosman had another year, and obviously I didn't. I had a 1 year, like pretty much tryout year.
Mhm.
But obviously I thought I did great. And
Mhm.
so yeah, I had no options really. And then obviously I was a bigger dude, and HEP, they all just kind of jumped on me and test rode the bike and everything. And they're super, cool people and everything. And we hit it off right off the bat. So signed with them, and then um, off season actually wasn't too bad. And then I actually had this crash right before round one in the whoops, and it freaked me out pretty bad. So whatever. Um, that happened. So I didn't start off that well. And then honestly, I wasn't ready for the 40 class. Like, dude, I didn't even want to race yet. And I got, technically bumped up to 40 class. Cause normally when you shift to the 40 class, you're at least won a title or you're a title contender. And I wasn't there yet,
Right.
obviously.
Yeah.
Just kind
Mhm.
of had no choice. But so beginning of the season, we started blowing up bikes. And for some reason, it was only happening to me like every week. And I was getting like one blew up and I was like, whatever, it happens. And then they started blowing up on me in the jumps and everything. And I just started getting in this bubble of just being terrified. And I I remember like one race, I was just freaking out, dude. And whatever, the team helped me, we pulled through it. It obviously didn't do that good that night, but I was just so scared. I didn't want to get hurt. And um, whatever, Supercross happened, and I didn't do good at all. And then outdoors happened, and I felt safer because we kind of figured out the problem with the bikes, and there wasn't really jumps that I could hit a
Yeah.
supercross trip and the bike lock
Yeah.
up. So
Yeah. Yeah. More straightaways.
exactly, and we had no problems there, and I started getting a lot of confidence, and I started to top 10 races, and then against some gnarly dudes. And the last round of outdoors, I got a fifth overall, which I thought was super freaking well for the year I had in the beginning,
Mhm.
and then I ended off being great, and that gave me so much more confidence throughout for honestly 2022, because this was 2021.
Mhm.
And they were behind me, and we were all gelling real well, and bike started getting a lot better. We switched engines, kind of switched suspension, and got a lot more actually help from factory Suzuki. And like I said, the bike was getting pretty good. And then 2022, Supercross, I honestly had a great year. I got eighth overall in Supercross points, and
Mhm.
to me, that for my caliber, I thought that was an awesome overall finish. Me and Amar battled about every. He would always out qualify me, but I'd always get him in the main. We would talk about this all the time, but yeah, I just kept myself very consistent because a lot of dudes getting hurt, and for me, it was just like, you just got to stay up, dude. And like, I was good enough to be top 10 almost every weekend, and that racks up the points. And eighth overall was an amazing accomplishment. And then yeah, it was 2022 was a great year for me on the 450.
Yeah, I remember, 2021, and didn't know the story about, which is surprising that you didn't have an opportunity for the ride. I know the world was crazy back then with COVID and stuff, but like, not many times do you have a podium guy that has only been in the class a few years and doesn't have a really an option for a ride. So to have to jump up to 450s that quick when you'd only been pro for 3 years, um, and
Yeah,
the first year, obviously I remember it was like, man, like we didn't know if you're hurt or what was going on, but again, you're getting moved to a class that's full of champions. It's gnarly. You're on a bike that you're not used to riding, and you
way
probably,
different than a
yeah, 250.
Suzuki.
Yeah,
Way
I'm
different.
sure, right? And then you probably still had a little bit of like, kind of, you wanted to be in the 250 class as a title contender. You got bumped up early, so you probably were just dealing with a lot. And then obviously you
Mhm.
showed on the outdoors, you got a lot better. Than 2022 was a good year. You got a bunch of top tens, and you finished eighth overall. So you were trending in the right direction, right, to get
Yeah.
back to where you probably thought you should be. So um, I always thought those Suzuki's. I know everybody makes fun of like how old they are, but they honestly look like one of the coolest bikes out there, I think. And
Gold rims, man. The gold rims make it look just blinged out. It's really not a bad bike. Obviously, Kenny's, I mean, rolling on it right now, but it was just it turns super well, and dude, I could ride the bike great. It was just my confidence at the time was
yeah.
not too high because I wasn't ready to move up, and like you said, I was only 3 years into the racing professional, and yeah, it was just it's crazy. Like I'm looking at I look at well in my head, I think of results I got, and then I'm looking at some of these dudes that have factory rides, and I'm like, bro, I literally destroyed what you get nowadays. It's like
Uh-huh.
it's just something with COVID. I don't know, or something just didn't work out. But everything happens for a reason.
Yep. So you go, have a good 2022 season. You're prepping for 23 Supercross. You're still with the HEP guys. So, it'd be your third year on the team. Probably made a lot of
Mhm.
progress with yourself on the 450 and the bike. And so, we kind of talked about before the very beginning, November 29th, you were testing and, ultimately, had a big injury,
Yeah,
that kind of took, I mean, obviously you're still recovering from, and you'll be recovering from, for a long time. So
yeah.
kind of just walk us through, that day and from what you remember, because I remember, listening to your interviews before, and I know you've talked about this a lot, but you were out, unconscious for a while. So I don't even know how much of the day you actually remember. But yeah, just kind of walk us through it.
It was we were just testing in Fresno, and we were just reality. It was close to the season, so we were putting in motos, we were testing, and the bike just the crank went through the cases off the face of this triple, not a supercross triple, a rhythm triple, and it locked up as soon as I took off, and I landed straight to my back and head, and yeah, that was a tough one because before this I was feeling great. I switched trainers with or a new trainer with Brock Tickle, and dude, I was working my ass off, and I was losing weight, and I was a fit dude, and when I was working with Brock, we did this fitness test, and it just showed my body I was developed to put in work, and it was like I said, everything was just connecting perfectly. I was training a little bit with Jason Anderson, and like I said, everything was going good. I just got married, so everything was step. We were just feeling great, and this happened, and I was knocked out for 6 minutes. I displaced my glenoid in my right shoulder and broke the scapula. I broke my ribs, collapsed my lung, dislocated my left hip, broke my back, and I had a massive hematoma. So when it happened, I mean, dude, I don't even remember like almost a week, man. Like they had me so drugged up, and with
Yeah.
my head injury, I don't even remember the pain besides like being in the hospital. So I'm like almost thankful I got hurt like with my head because I literally like I guess I woke up freaking out and shit, but I don't remember the pain besides like when I was in the hospital and they had to like transfer me from the bed to like a table to get x-rays because dude, they didn't even know I broke my back until we did a body scan, and dude, they said so my spine when it broke it um dislocated into my um, spinal cord, and it slit the spinal cord a little bit and it leaked. So, well, obviously, if that happens, normally, if your vertebrae shift into your spinal cord, normally you go paralyzed. And
Hmm.
all the doctors at the time, like I can kind of remember, like waking up and doctors being like, "Can you feel your feet?" And I'm like, "Yeah." Like obviously at the time, I had no idea what was going on. I was just
Right.
drugged up and
Yeah.
whatever, sleeping. So I was just like, dude, why couldn't I feel my feet?
Right.
And
Right. Yeah.
I had, like I said, no idea what was going on. I was just drugged up from the time I hit the deck. And yeah, they just were so shocked I was fine and not like paralyzed. And wouldn't say fine, but not paralyzed. And um, I remember we were in Fresno is where I got hurt. So my wife was in SoCal and she got a call, like, you're like from, I think one of the team members, like, Brandon's pretty messed up. You should get here. So Dustin then paid for a flight, got her there. And I remember I woke up randomly and she walked in and dude, I was so drugged up. I was just like, she's like, I'm about to pass out and throw up. I said, Matt, I woke up. I said, Madison, it's going to be okay. And I'm like, dude, literally, I'm like, I have no fucking clue what's going on. And I remember
Oh,
that. But yeah, it was, dude, it was an adventure. And then my parents flew out. And at the time, still COVID, I guess, rules. There's only one parent allowed in. And my parents would rotate each day. And yeah, it was not good. And then spent 9 days there in the ICU. And then I had to obviously go to therapy. So road recovery shifted me to Casa Colina in Pomona, California. They got me it was either a 6 hour ambulance ride or a um, private plane ride. And dude, I'm so thankful they did that because, dude, when they put me in the ambulance just to get to the plane, which was like 20 minutes, I was like, I would have been drugged the whole time because I'm like, I can't deal with the pain. And
hmm.
6 hours like that, dude, I would have died. So not literally, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, 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 for sure.
So road recovery stepped up. That was awesome. So we spent, I think, a month in Casa Colina, and yeah, that was not fun. But after that, got sent home, and I think I left quite a bit early. I had that motocross mentality, like acting like everything's better than what it is in therapy and everything, and um, went home, and then I kind of figured we need to figure something out because my shoulder was growing back into like I displaced my glenoid, and my scapula was completely messed up, so everything was growing wrong, and dude, I couldn't even lift my shoulder. It was so bad, and then we transferred, moved everything home, which was not an easy thing, man. We lived in that house for like 4 years. So, and it was all my wife and my parents. Like I couldn't help at all. And I'm in California, they're in Jersey. So there was a lot of money being spent for things to happen. And then as soon as I got home, got checked out and I had like four surgeons turn me down because the way they have to fix something that's growing wrong is like they have to go in and re-break everything. Well, they had to go through my rotator cuff muscle to get to the scapula, to re-break the scapula, put it back to place, and then sew my rotator cuff muscle. And the thing is with that is you can hit nerves and cut the nerves. So it was like a really gnarly shoulder surgery according to all these surgeons. And this guy did awesome job. And then another surgery after that one, I have some nerve problems going on in my body, and I did an EMG and had some issues. We went to surgery, and the way I look at, like, I don't have feelings still, but the way I look at it is we tried to fix it, and it might come back tomorrow, it might never come back. So it's like I said, it was a crazy year. I could talk hours, man. I had to go to counseling. I was a little mentally messed up and still am a little bit, but trying to fight through it. So I could talk, man.
No, yeah, no, it's good. And this is what people don't realize, I think, is not only, the injury side of the sport physically, right? Obviously, you're still dealing with that physically, but it's the mental side of it to where, yeah, your body hurts and, obviously you're recovering on that, but mentally, it took away what you're doing, what, you could have been doing for a long time in one, like literally in an instant. And then you're sitting there thinking, why me? What am I going to
Yeah.
do?
Where did I go wrong?
Yeah, well, you just start. It's and that's it's probably more tough to get over something like that mentally than physically. Obviously, it's no fun either, but your mind is harder to battle than piecing your body back together.
Mind controls everything. So yeah, it was like I get in weird moods, man. Because I had a TBI and I had to go to speech therapy when I first got hurt and in Casa Colina in the rehab. And dude, I remember I felt so stupid. Like I didn't have like a speech impediment, nothing like that, messed me up. Like I knew what was going on and everything. I could talk fine, but like I could not. If you told me what like 2 plus 2 was, I would look at you and be like, I just stare at you and like I'm like, dude, I can't answer. I don't know. And it was my memory was so bad and I felt so stupid. And just that, but also I was taking so much medication for pain and uh I was taking like 13 pills twice a day, and then obviously leaned off of that, and then had another surgery, the shoulder surgery, dude. That was probably my second worst pain. And I remember the first night they wanted to keep me in the hospital with my shoulder, and I'm like, dude, no, I'm tired of the. I don't want to be in a hospital anymore. I'm like, I'm tired of it. So I went home when they nerve blocked, put a nerve
Mhm.
block in, and that thing wore out as I was going to bed. Dude, I took it's like eight, I think it was 7 or 8 oxys just to relieve the pain. And it was a lot of coming off the medicine was bad too. And I remember I'd be laying in bed and I just start shaking and
Mhm.
I couldn't help it. And
Mhm.
that like I had that surgery and then I remember when I got the nerve one, I was like, it didn't hurt for some reason. And I didn't even take a pain pill. I'm like, dude, I'm done with them. And it's it's for sure got me some PTSD and some stuff. And like I don't even want to take Tylenol. Like it's for sure freaked me out and needles have freaked me out, dude. I was getting poked every day and just a lot of things that I never imagined I'd ever go through. And I remember my wife, like I taught her a little bit, like kind of taking care of say she's got her degree to be like ultrasound to the heart and brain and kind of taught her a little bit how to be a nurse because couldn't wipe my butt, dude. I don't even care to talk about this. I don't know if I'm allowed to or not, but
Oh,
I
you
could not wipe
can.
my butt. Couldn't poop.
Dude, the
Couldn't
pill, those
pee.
pills and trying to go to the bathroom, like that
Well,
makes it
like
really tough.
so where I broke, it triggers your constipation and where they split your back open. So where I broke, it triggers all your insides. And I first could not pee and couldn't pee on my own. So there's always a catheter in and out. And I remember this one nurse, we kept hitting the button like I gotta pee, I gotta pee, I gotta pee. And I was having random nurses just come in and cath me. And one day they weren't showing up. So I was like, Madison, you're stepping in. And she did it. But I mean, it's just like she stuck by me through it all and went through hell for me. And it doesn't just affect me, man. It affects her too. I didn't say I ruined, but made her life way harder and just financially and everything. And there's just so much, man, that went down and hurt my parents' lives too. It's not just mine or my wife's. It's a lot of people. So learned a lot.
Yeah, and you always try to it's hard to keep a positive spin on it, obviously, with the things you go through, and you have to sit there, think every day, watching the races, like, man, I could be out there. But I
Mhm.
always try to think, like, at the end of the day, at least you're still alive, you can walk.
Yeah.
The
Oh, 100%.
financial things of medical and all that, I mean, dude, I'm sure that's a burden, but like at the end of the day, like, yes, you'll have to deal with that, but
The way
it's
I
like
always
it's
look
worth
at it
it.
is it always could be worse. I mean,
Mhm.
I it's you don't realize how good you had it or have it until you're in a situation. So whatever situation you're dealt with in life, it could be worse.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
it's I remember when I was in like therapy in the actual hospital and you feel sorry for yourself, but then you go and then you see these people and you're just like, bro, I'm fine. Like
Yeah.
I'm telling you, you are not that bad unless you're like, I mean, there's certain things you can be absolutely like gutted and mentally messed up, but um, yeah, you don't realize it. You just could be worse, is what I would say.
Yeah, and what's crazy to think about, it's almost been a year. Yeah, you've had
Mhm.
a lot of surgeries. From the outside looking in, it looks like you're doing really good. I mean, your body
Yeah.
must be like a warrior with all the stuff you've dealt with, but obviously you probably still have some, very gnarly lingering effects that you'll probably have and all that. But, when did you decide that, were you try this whole time once you started getting, your mind right, and or trying to get your mind right, and were you trying to think about like what's next, and that's kind of what led you
Yeah.
in this path to your training program, or we just was did this something that just came up, or you were just like trying to figure out like what you were gonna do, next?
Yeah, that was like the biggest thing is I'm like at the time I'm like freshly hurt and I was training hard and like I still had the motivation like oh like I want to come back.
Right.
And then spiraling down I'm like I don't think my body can even come back to that ever. I can't twist, I can't do a lot of things and then it started clicking in like I was sitting at home like I was going to therapy like 3 times a week. It'd be, dude, I'd be there for like 3 hours because I had multiple injuries I had to repair. And then it came down to like, I was starting to like trip at home. And then like I was going to counseling for it. And then I was like, Dad, I want to do something to make a little extra money to keep me busy and feel like I have a purpose. And we actually got a part-time job at he works for Public Works and he's a foreman and he got me a job. Dude, cleaning communities. I didn't care. Like I learned about life that I would have never learned about. So it was awesome in a way. And like, dude, I had a clock in and clock out. Like I've never done it in my life. And
That definitely gives you perspective, right?
yeah, like that gives me like that taught me like, dude, motocross is not that bad. And
Hmm.
just like I said, I learned so much about life I would have never have learned in like say I'm done racing in the future and
Hmm.
then I'm like, what do I do? So
Right.
that helped me. I did that job for about 4 months and dude, that kept me like floating perfectly mentally and be little times I would be working and I'm like I'd start stressing and not feeling too good, but that kept me in a nice fine line. And then Coop and I, what started with the training thing was me and Coop. I spent a week in Coop's house when he was in Claremont still training and with Alden and on KTM. And we're on this golf course and I was just like, he asked me like what my plan is. And I'm like, dude, I have no plans. I don't know what to do, my life. And at the moment. And he brought this idea up to me and I was like, oh, it's not a bad idea, whatever. And then I thought about it. Like he went to the race. I stayed at his house, watched the dogs with me and my wife. And while I was over the weekend, I'm just like talking to Madison about it. I'm like, we could do this for sure. And then he came back after the race and told him. And ever since then, April, it's been kind of gun ho for this business.
Yeah, that's cool, and it's cool to have, obviously you and Cooper are good friends, and probably when you went to his house for that week, he's probably like, man, we've got to get you over here, get your mind right, get you out of the house, and all those things. So it's cool to have support from a guy like that, and I'm sure that obviously everything he's done, he's been successful, and when your racing career, you're successful. So there's only positive outlook for here on your new business for sure.
Yeah, it's tough because it was like the first time. It was kind of like I flew there to get away from just every day of therapy and whatever. And then when I got there, I didn't want to like bombard him because he's still racing, and he was in the title hunt. I mean, they were going neck and neck for the title, him and Tomac, and I just wanted to like, dude, I wanted to like go and like look at stuff, and I didn't like try to annoy him and stuff. And his backyard, he lived on a golf course, dude. This thing was beautiful. I would just go in the backyard and just sit in the sun and just like try to enjoy it, man. And yeah, I mean, he's been supportive, very supportive since I've gotten hurt, and him and his wife have been awesome actually. So him and Seth Rarick, he's been great. There's so many people that have been checking up on me, and but there's obviously some people that check up on me, but the people that actually stay consistent and like care for me, they knew who they are. So
Yeah, man. Well, we appreciate you taking the time to do this with us today. It's unfortunate to end off on this picture, with
oh
all the success you've had over your career that was, obviously shorter than you probably would have liked it. But I mean, you still have to be pretty happy with things that you accomplished from really, where you started as an amateur and turning pro, and everyone like, who's this guy getting podiums and riding for factory teams. I mean, that you got to do more than 99.9% of the people that ride dirt bikes.
yeah, you don't realize it, man. Like I was a much better rider than I thought I was, because as a racer, man, you're always like, you want more, you want more. There's never a give. Like you win a title and it's like, I haven't won a title, but say for me, it's like my dream was being on the box podium. Once it happens, it's like, okay, well, now you want to win. So
Mhm.
you never really, if when you're racing, you don't ever really look like, wow, you did a great job, and more than I ever thought I would. So yeah, career was for sure a little bit shorter than I expected, but hopefully it's for the better. I'm excited to start this business and I'm gonna treat it as, it's my job every day, and I'm super excited to take care of some people and make them better.
Yeah, definitely. Well, cool, man. We appreciate you taking the time to do this with us today. And yeah, good luck on your new adventure. And I'll make sure to follow up and see how everything's going. You'll come October 1st when it goes live.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you for having me on. If you ever want me back on here or whatever, let me know.
Definitely, man. We appreciate it.